apologize for my voice tonight, number one. And somebody asked me after the other night how I'm feeling better, so I just don't sound it yet. So it's coming. But I'd like to say good evening, Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, and members of the board. Always a privilege to honor Cannon County employees that go the extra mile. And that's what we're going to do tonight. Ms. Karen King nominated her entire staff, the faculty and staff of Cannon North Elementary. And she said these things about her staff in regard to the recent events that have occurred in the Reedyville area. But I'd like to nominate the entire staff of Cannon North Elementary for the Employees of the Month for April. On Saturday morning, April the 1st, after a significant tornado hit our school zone, I sent a group message telling them that the Red Cross had set up a shelter in our building for victims of the tornado. I asked that teams of 2 sign up in 2-hour shifts so that if the Red Cross needed anything, someone would be at the school at all times. I told them I would cover the 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. shift, but even before 8:30 a.m., teachers started coming in. Not in teams of 2, but all teachers. Some helped schedule the rest of the day. Some started making phone calls. Within hours, we had a snack station of donations, a meal line for workers, a hygiene table and a free store of immediate needs for survivors of the tornado. I was asking for needed items on social media and helping in the storm area. They were receiving donations, sorting, and distributing as needed. I never came back in the building that less than 6 of my teachers or staff were there working. Some rode on available streets and checked on our students. Some called families and took items to them. I only asked them to stay until 6 p.m. But from Saturday until Wednesday, someone on this staff arrived by 7, and someone was always there until after 6 p.m. They worked together as a team, each assuming a role and playing that role to its max potential. When we went virtual on Wednesday and planned meal lines, these teachers met the kids with hugs and smiles and provided education just like COVID had prepared us for. On Wednesday afternoon, when we decided we would provide all of our kids with bears, these same, by now exhausted teachers made calls and drove miles to find and pick up bears. Then on Easter Sunday night, think about this. Then on Easter Sunday night, almost all of us met at 7 p.m. and worked until after 9 p.m. to sort bears and items for comfort packs. On Monday, the kids were not only met with bears, but with smiles and hugs and love. I've never been so proud to be their leader. They have been the true hands and feet of servants, not only for our school, but for our entire community, and they are very deserving of this recognition. Sincerely, Karen King, proud principal of Cannon North Elementary School. Let's give them a hand right now. All right, Cannon North, come up and let's get our picture made. I'll try to stand away from you. Won't shake your hands, unfortunately. But I'll be coming down to your school to give individual certificates after Teresa gets back in the office. She's sick too, not from what I've got, somebody else. But when Teresa gets back, we'll get certificates for all of you. No room. Come on and stand and let me get my phone too. Everybody leaves up there.
I'll get in the back, it's okay.
I'll stand by Rogers. I'll stand by Rogers. Call. Let's give a hand to the thing. Thank y'all so very much. We appreciate all of it.
Bus driver, the DSP, and some of them were already out of town.
So get me a certificate. I'll get things. I'll get some. I'm ready to call roll, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis. Please call a roll.
Mr. McMackins.
Here.
Mr. Mel.
Here.
Mr. Mullins.
Here.
Ms. Curtis.
Here.
Chairman Thomas.
Here.
Chairman Thomas, you have 5 members present, none absent. You have a quorum, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. The first item on tonight's agenda, board policy, is the selection of a new director of schools for Cannon County. I would like to take a moment just to thank my board members, my fellow board members, for, I believe, a successful director search. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for the time that you put into that and the research that you put into it. I'd like to say that I think that we had a great time of interviews with our 3 chosen candidates. We enjoyed that evening, and I believe Cannon County was very blessed. And I'm very thankful for the 3 candidates which we had. The board does have some news for our community and audience tonight. Yesterday, we received a call from Mr. Vince Owens, and he withdrew his application from this process, thanking us for his time and stating that after talking to his family more in depth, that he felt it was not the right time for him. I was very impressed with Mr. Owens, and I thanked him for his time and also his willingness to always be available if any of us ever needed to call upon him. And it's definitely a time in education where we all work together across county lines and throughout many school districts, in my opinion. At this time, I will open the floor for any motions that a board or any of the board members would like to make.
I would like to make a motion that we select Miss Bonnie Patterson as our new director of schools.
Second.
Is there any discussion? If not, Mr. Curtis, please call the roll.
Motion made by Ms. Curtis, seconded by Mr. Mullins, to nominate Ms. Bonnie Patterson as the next director of Cannon County Schools beginning July 1, 2023. Mr. McMackins.
Aye.
Mr. Mel.
Aye.
Mr. Mullins.
Aye.
Ms. Curtis.
Aye.
Chairman Thomas.
Aye.
Madam Chairman, 5 ayes, no nays.
Thank you very
Give
much.
her a flag.
Thank you, board members.
Madam Chairman, if I could, I would like to say congratulations to Ms. Bonnie. Ms. Bonnie is I'd say lifelong friend, one for at the time I've been in the system. So I appreciate her. I'll begin working with her in the transition period. And we'll be working together for the betterment of Cannon County schools. And we'll say more later. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Curtis. Item number 2 on tonight's agenda is concerning the approval of tonight's agenda. At this time, I would like to make a motion that we approve the new revised agenda that was sent to board members earlier this afternoon with the addition of item number 13, which will concern the senior trip emergency funding transportation expenditure that has arisen today.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Mr. Curtis, please call the roll.
Trying to write. That needs a prerequisite for Ms. Bonnie. She can write quick.
So sorry, Mr. Curtis.
Motion made by Chairman Thomas, seconded by Mr. Mel, to approve the revised agenda for April 13, 2023, agenda of the Cannon County Board of Education, revised to add item number 13, Cannon County High School emergency transportation expenditure. Mr. McMackins.
Aye.
Mr. Mel.
Aye.
Mr. Mullins.
Aye.
Ms. Curtis.
Aye.
Chairman Thomas.
Aye.
Madam Chairman, 5 ayes, no nays.
Thank you. Item number 2 item number 3 on tonight's agenda is the consent agenda, which is rather lengthy tonight. Before we read that, I do believe there was one omission that needed to be made. They're duplicate trips. So let's keep trip 4366 and remove trip 4328 as they are the same trip. Is there a motion to approve this consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis.
Motion made by Mr. Mullins, seconded by Ms. Curtis to approve the consent agenda of the April 13, 2023 meeting of the Cannon County Board of Education. A, approve the minutes of the March 9, 2023 regular meeting of the board and the March 27, 2023 special called meeting of the board. B, approve Amanda Francis, Jonathan Francis, and Jeff Gannon for Cannon County High School trap coaches. C, approve older buses for surplus, bus number 0416 and bus number 11-03. D, approve staff development committee as presented. E, approve overnight and out-of-state trips, trip number 4329 TTI, Cannon County High School going to Martin, Tennessee on June the 11th through June 16th, 2023. Trip number 4331 DECA ICDC from Cannon County High School going to Orlando, Florida on April the 22nd through April the 26th, 2023. Trip number 4354 Cannon County High School girls basketball camp going to Florida on June the 19th, 2023 to June 24th, 2023. Trip number 4366 Tennessee Strong Summit, Cannon County High School, Chattanooga, Tennessee, June the 4th, 2023 to June 6th, 2023. And the FFA Vet Science CDE program going from Cannon County High School going to Martin, Tennessee on 4/21/2023 to 4/22/2023. Mr. McMackins.
Can I make a quick comment on B? I was hoping the coaches would be here tonight. I have my trap hat on. I appreciate what these people do. It's a sport that nobody really knows about much in our system. They hear about it, but there's a lot of time goes into that, a lot of time. And when I first started out, I had 48 kids by myself. That's a middle school football team. So I appreciate, I was hoping they were here tonight so I could say that to them, but I really appreciate what they do.
All right, Mr. McMackins.
Aye.
Mr. Mel.
Aye.
Mr. Mullins.
Aye.
Ms. Curtis.
Aye.
Chairman Thomas.
Aye.
Madam Chairman, 5 ayes, no nays.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis. Item number 4 is a workshop only item, and that is the financial report. Item number 5 was an update from architect Gregor Smee, an in-person report, might I add. And that was at the workshop only. We appreciate him making that trip to see us. Item number 6 was our safety report from Ms. Bonnie Patterson. That was at the workshop only.
Filled out everything that was in place.
Yes. I think that's very nice too, to see all of the items and where they are at. I think we're well taken care of. Thank you, Ms. Bonnie, for that addition. Item number 7 on tonight's agenda is the ESSER report. Ms. Alexander presented that to us on Tuesday evening. Number 8 is the facilities report. Ms. Sism is here tonight. Are there any additions to that as well? You good? That was the workshop only, no additions. Thank you. Item number 9 was the update concerning Skyward from Miss Lisa Black, and that was at the workshop only. Miss Lisa, you're good?
I'm good, but the student, the middle grade student that I cannot find, I found her. She had a name.
Wonderful.
Good.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Moving on to item number 10. That is to approve resolution 7, 8, and 9. We found out on Tuesday evening that we need to strike resolution 7. No action is needed there. So we will be focusing our attention tonight on resolution 8 and 9. Mr. Curtis?
Resolution BOE 22/23, number 8, has to do with increased revenues in the American Association of School Administrators. We received a nationwide grant. Only just a few selected school systems in the country received this grant. And so our revenues would go up $2,000 and our expenditures will go up $2,000. Ms. Bonnie gave a great report about us getting that, and we're excited to receive that. And you want to go to number 9 and do both, or you want to do them one at a time? Madam Chairman, your choice.
Let's do those one at a time. Do I have a motion to approve resolution number 8?
I'll make a motion, we approve resolution number 8.
Okay. Is there a second?
I said,
Thank you, Mr. McMackins and Mr. Mullins. Mr. Curtis, please call the roll.
Motion made by Mr. Mullins, seconded by Mr. McMackins, to approve resolution number BOE number 8, having to do with the American Association of School Administrators for supplies and materials for school counselors, an amount of $2,000 in increased revenue and $2,000 in increased expenditures. Mr. McMackins.
aye.
Mr. Mel.
Aye.
Mr. Mullins.
Aye.
Ms. Curtis.
Aye.
Chairman Thomas.
Aye.
Madam Chairman, 5 ayes, no nays.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis. Now we'll move on to resolution number 9.
Okay, Madam Chairman, resolution number 9 has to do with, we received a grant from Middle Tennessee Natural Gas Project Hometown Help for the Calming Corners Student Program. And you heard about that during the workshop. Great program. That amount was increased revenues of $1,000, and the expenditures will also be $1,000.
I'll make a motion that we approve that resolution. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Mr. Curtis, please call the roll.
Motion made by Mr. Chairman Thomas, seconded by Mrs. Trammell, to approve BOE Resolution Number 9, a grant from Middle Tennessee Natural Gas Project Hometown Help for Calming Corners Student Program in the amount of $1,000. Mr. McMackins.
Aye.
Ms. Trammell.
Aye.
Mr. Mullins.
Aye.
Ms. Curtis.
Aye.
Chairman Thomas.
Aye.
Madam Chairman, 5 ayes, no nays.
Thank you. Item number 11 on tonight's agenda is our monthly policy review for policies 6.100 to 6.319 concerning our students. Is there any discussion or a motion concerning this approval?
I'll make a motion, we move it to next month, get more time to review. We do have a couple we need to look at closer.
Thank you. There's second.
What was that? You said move what?
Move it to next month, because we have a couple.
Oh,
more.
okay. I see. That's fine. I'll second.
Thank you. Mr. Curtis.
Motion made to table item number 11 to the May meeting of the Cannon County Board of Education. Mr. McMackins.
Aye.
Ms. Trammell.
Aye.
Mr. Mullins.
Aye.
Ms. Curtis.
Aye.
Chairman Thomas.
Aye.
Madam Chairman, 5 ayes, no nays to table this motion to the May meeting.
Thank you. Item number 12 is to approve the policy review on policy 6.206, which concerns student transfer. Mr. Curtis.
Madam Chairman, as we discussed at the workshop, any need to change the transfer policy probably needs to be made sooner than later in regard to the transfers. But we had a lively discussion during the workshop regarding this situation.
Yes, sir. Is there any discussion on this? Any further discussion or thoughts?
My only thought is, as far as out of zone students, I personally feel like the principal should be involved in that as well. As far as, of course, the director has the ultimate say, but I feel like the principals need to be involved because, I'm not saying the director doesn't know who's in our school or how many or whatever, but I just feel like the principals have a better feel of that, what the needs of their individual schools and what their individual schools can handle. So I don't know how we need to handle that or proceed with that, but I think that would be something that would be good.
If I could, Madam Chairman, in
Yes.
line 22 of the policy, it states the director of schools slant designee. And that has been usually the director of schools, and with the intake person, usually that's Lisa. But we could say the designee could be the principal there too, as part of that, and change the form That's a procedural thing, not a policy thing. And you change the form where the principal signs off on that out-of-zone transfer as well. That way the principals looked at it and know that they've got this particular one or that particular one. And I think that's going to come up here in a few moments anyway in the next, in policy and about out-of-zone students and what you'll be making too. So looking at it, I don't think any policy revisions need to be done, but while the broadcast is on tonight, I will say line 26 and 27 is very important too, and that is students with a previously approved out-of-zone transfer, if they've got an out-of-zone transfer right now, shall be required to reapply annually to attend the out-of-zone school provided the transfer does not cause overcrowding. And sometimes you don't know if it's going to cause overcrowding until the day of registration. So the policy states that is the policy, that it should be reviewed. And somebody say, well, what is the deal? Well, between May 15th and June 15th, a parent or guardian may request that his or her child attend a school within the system other than the one which the child is zoned. Transfer shall be made using a zone exemption application that can be obtained at the Cannon County Board of Education Central Office. And me and the director-elect and I will go over that form, make sure the form is changed where the principals sign off as well as that signed off. We usually don't do that until usually right after July 4th is when we start working on those. Because the June 15th deadline is that. So people will have until literally June 15th to make sure that that zone exemption is signed.
And there's been changes in recent years about who has had to sign that. Is that correct?
Repeat that question. I'm sorry, Madam Chairman.
That's changed in recent years as to who is to sign that, because at one
That's
point-
correct, because one used to be board members and
Yes, sir.
everybody had to do that. But that changed a few years ago, that the board members did not have to sign that request. And that's because every single request came before the board. Well, then it became to the director's job to looking at that, particularly at those August. There used to be an exemption period in the first 10 days of school. That was in state law. That was changed. And so that was not in there any longer. So you look at the issue date was last year when this changed again by the legislature. Ms. Black, you want to say anything about that too, on that part?
I think we need to make sure that everybody reapplies if you're out of zone. So we can look at who was actually in the building and in that zone prior to making those decisions. When I have some kind of fact, I'm getting it every day now.
And what we can do, we can turn right around and revise that. We'll revise that form in the next couple of weeks so that principals can already go ahead and give that out. If they've got an out-of-zone student, they can have that form ready for them, that they can send that home and say, this has got to be filled out again this year.
But with the revision of that form is what Ms. Curtis was speaking of. I believe it has to be board policy in order to give the principals that they must give their approval as well. I agree with you. So,
So do we need to go ahead and line 22 and strike maybe that designee and say director of schools, comma, principal? Or and principal instead of designee?
Yes.
Would that be
I believe so.
appropriate motion for somebody to make besides me? I can't make that motion.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
and I would like to have it second, I will second it.
Ms. Curtis is writing fast now.
Madam Chairman, may I ask a question?
Yes, sir. This time.
Are IEPs tied to a school? In other words, if a kid is in IEPs, if say a kid is at South, has an IEP, goes to North, is that transferable? Will you still get the same services?
The student their disability and getting
the elementary school for one of the lights for the fire. So, they don't apply for it.
they don't apply for any zoning. They have to go where the placement of services is available.
They don't apply. And Cannon Elementary is the only one of those top five we have in the county. But we have students from any elementary that needs to go to that class, and zoning doesn't apply to that, because that's the only thing we can offer those services.
So they don't do a form?
Correct.
Okay.
So I have many more students that are technically still my students that are being earned in the 500 there.
Okay.
So we can't rezone them somewhere else. They have to be here.
Right. And that's
If you have a
understandable.
And they are done with Cannon North, we can also make them if they do Cannon South. Or vice versa. Or the elementary, if they're not in the license.
Is there any more discussion on this matter? Mr. Curtis, can you please call the roll?
Motion made by Ms. Curtis, seconded by Chairman Thomas to revise Cannon County Board of Education Policy 6.206 to change line 22 to read Director of Schools and Principal, replacing word designee. Mr. McMackins.
Aye.
Ms. Trammell.
Aye.
Mr. Mullins.
Aye.
Ms. Curtis.
Aye.
Chairman Thomas.
Aye.
Madam Chairman, you have 5 ayes, no nays.
Thank you. Item number 13 on this agenda at this point now, on the revised agenda, is discussion concerning Cannon County High School senior trip. There has appeared to be an emergency funding transportation expenditure that we need to be made aware of and discuss tonight. Mr. Curtis.
I'd like to ask Transportation Supervisor Lisa Black to come up and explain what's going on. I'll try to get, while she's talking, I'll get Mr. Nichols on the phone also, and Ms. Crystal is here too to represent. Come on up, Crystal. So he is here in his stead as he is at a baseball game in Smith County at my request. So, Ms. Black, you might understand, if you'll give them just a synopsis of what has occurred in the last
Sure.
little bit. I'm going to say that in the last few days.
Just in the last few days.
Well, go ahead and give a synopsis of what has occurred, please.
So back on January the 10th, Mr. Nichols called me and asked if I could find out if the insurance that we currently have for transportation would cover if he rented or borrowed a church bus and he was the driver of that bus. I did contact the insurance company and they said no, because the insurance covers the vehicle, not the driver. So I said, we relayed that to him, and they began a search at that point for a different type vehicle. On January the 4th, Shauna Irvin contacted me via email and said, hey, we've decided to go with Masters Transport out of Nashville. They had used them before, and we need a certificate of insurance. Then began a long 33 emails between myself and Tennessee Risk Management trying to get this set up. Tennessee Risk Management, I guess you guys know, is our insurance. I was told all along that that wouldn't be a problem, that they could issue us this certificate of insurance. Not a problem, not a problem. We need some more information on this vehicle that they're renting. One time, March 20th, and again, twice, I'm sorry, and on March 30th, there was a question within the email that said, how many passengers does this vehicle hold? I had not rented the vehicle. I didn't know what the vehicle looked like. I actually contacted Miss Irvin and said, Shauna, I think they're going to want the VIN number off the bus because they want everything about it. She sent me a flyer. I attached that flyer to the email. I sent it to my contact. I got an email back that says I'm out of the office until the 14th. She sent on there, if you have any questions, send it to this other person. So I sent that email again to that person. On April 10th, I spoke to Tad Salmon, who I normally speak to when I have any claims or anything through transportation. He said, Ms. Black, there's not going to be a problem. We'll issue you this certificate of insurance. Not going to be an issue. That was on the 10th. On the 12th, at 8:55 in the morning, I received an email from Wendy who said, I've attached a flyer from the Tennessee Department of Education that says you can't rent such a vehicle. What? So I kept emailing her back and forth. At some point, I emailed Mr. Nichols, Shauna, and Crystal and said, look, I think there's a problem. Don't get excited. Don't worry. Mr. Salmon said they could issue us the certificate of insurance. I'm sure it's just a mistake. They told me to contact Tennessee Risk Management, asked me to contact Raymond Gaskell. He's the lieutenant over people transportation. He told me you can't rent that vehicle. You can only rent a 10-passenger, a school bus, or a coachman like Estes or Greyhound or one of those to transport children. That is the first time I have ever heard that. I knew we could never use a 15-passenger, but I'd never heard this before. I called Courtney or Mr. Nichols, and we discussed what in the world they were going to do because they leave in 2 days. And he said, Lisa, we don't have a choice but to rent another bus. We've got to have a bus. We have too many kids. I can't. What am I going to do? That 12/23, Mr. Nichols had Mr. Curtis in his office, and we all three talked that they have to have some support. They have to have help. This is happening. This is of no fault of theirs. I had no idea this was going to happen. I'm welcome to send you all my emails. There was never any indication this wasn't going to be covered until Wednesday morning at 8:55.
Ms. Nichols, if you'll come on up, please. Thank you, sir. I'm not going to ask if you have sped from Smith County or not, so
Please don't ask any questions.
I'm not going to ask you that. I would incriminate you on that speeding from Smith County. But Ms. Nichols, go ahead and talk about what you've done and what we've worked out with Ms. Black.
So fortunately, I had Miss Kennedy reach out to Estes Bus Service, and Brittany and Penny was at lunch, and thankfully they said, we will do everything we can to help you guys. We know you're in a bind. So they got back to the shop and they were talking, and they called us back and they said, hey, listen, we can get you a bus, and it is bare minimum. What we can do is $8,000. And that is, listen, she is, we're very blessed to have Penny and Brittany and Estes Bus Service working with us in this late. I mean, she said if it would have been 1 day later, there'd been no way we could have pulled this off. Anyway, so what we have done on our end is the rental that we had, I think it was $3,500 roughly is what it was what it was going to cost us.
Because you were the driver.
Because I was the driver. I was to drive that group down on a senior trip. We're going to take that money and apply that to the cost of this Estes bus. This is the second Estes bus. Lisa and Mr. Curtis, as she said, that we had a conference call that afternoon, and please correct me if I'm mistaken, but they agreed just to go on and take that out of transportation this time, just because of the emergency that we're in. I can't, in good faith, go back to these parents 4 days before the trip and say, hey, listen, you owe $250 more
No, you
per
can't.
person. I can't do that. Nor can I go on this trip and say, hey, listen, all of you paid $800 on this trip. Part of you get to ride on the charter bus. Part of you get to ride on the school bus. I can't do that either.
No.
So what I'm asking is what is right, and let's fix this. This is not going to be one of those things we ever come back to the board and say, hey, listen, we need help with the bus or whatever. We're just in that perfect storm right now is what we're asking. Total cost would be $4,668.78 for the bus, and then plus the hotel rooms that we have not budgeted for that driver.
Because they can't share a
Because they
room.
cannot, bus drivers cannot share a room on that. So that's an additional, at the first day it's $507, and the second hotel is $225. Total cost is $5,478, and I'll share this with you.
And while he's telling you that, I will tell you that other school districts have rented from this company, and apparently that hasn't been an issue. We have rented from this company before, this school district has, and it's never been an issue. I was not aware that this was a new law or rule. It's the first I'd ever heard of it. I think one of the gentlemen from Tennessee Risk Management reached out to Mr. Curtis.
The president of the company.
So it wasn't an issue with the company you were renting from, it was an issue with the,
Tennessee Risk
With
Management.
our insurance.
oh, okay.
They wouldn't issue a certificate of insurance because they say school systems can't rent that type bus. We've rented before,
About 7 years ago, I used
so maybe it's new.
that same company to rent a bus to take my FFA group to Indianapolis. So,
And they told you in January, February that
They-
it was going to be okay.
April the 10th, they told me it was going to be okay. We just need some more information on the vehicle. They'll issue you a letter of, a certificate of
And they
insurance.
knew the type of bus from the very beginning.
I have sent them everything I've had. We even sent the VIN number of the bus.
Well, that's awesome.
Mr. Curtis, what the president, he back what they said?
Yes, in fact, he said CCBOE, which is what another person had said that they'd responded to Lisa, and talked about that. And I reiterate, it is the Tennessee Risk Management position that coverage doesn't apply for student transportation in anything larger than a van that is capacity rated for greater than 9 passengers plus the driver. An exception to this would be if the lease a commercial bus and driver with sufficient insurance limits that would supplant Tennessee Risk Management insurance coverage, quote unquote. And that is, and what I sent back to him is that we were working with a quote, and I just put it back right back to him that we had sent that, and then he sent another email. And he said, I know this trip is soon, but this rented bus isn't covered by Tennessee Risk Management as it doesn't appear to file written federal or state guidelines for transporting students. I don't know all the details, but like to discuss the educational aspect of this trip, as that is also a concern. And so I did not like that educational aspect of that because the board had approved that. So I said, Mr. Montgomery, thanks for your email. We have gone ahead and canceled the bus in question and have arranged transportation for this annual Cannon County High School senior trip with the intent to, quote, lease a commercial bus and driver with sufficient insurance limits that would supplant Tennessee Risk Management insurance coverage. Estes Bus Service, a local Cannon County commercial carrier who was transporting the other bus, has now arranged for another one of their buses, a full coverage commercial bus and driver, which is an additional substantial cost. As to the quote educational aspect of this trip, which has taken place for the past approximately over 50 years, the Cannon County Board of Education approved this trip, its itinerary, and certainly its educational value at its February meeting. We appreciate Tennessee Risk Management and the trust as our insurance carrier and desire to keep all of our students covered. Sincerely, William F. Curtis, Director of Cannon County Schools. So I hope that was a terse enough reply to Mr. Montgomery, a personal friend, but I told him, and then I called him this afternoon after I left the doctor's office and said that this is an approved trip. The educational value is there. It is approved. And he said, that's fine, but we're not going to cover that other bus.
Well, I don't think the educational value is any of their business. They're just the insurance people, correct?
That is correct.
Just
Our job is to
just
educate.
throwing that out there.
I think there was a mention that this is going to come out of transportation. Exactly where in transportation?
Ms. Lisa.
I spoke to Mr. Douglas, and he just wanted to make sure you guys were aware before we took that out of transportation. We'll find a line item to take that out of, probably salaries or somewhere. We'll move it around.
How that will affect that, though?
I'm sorry?
How's that going to affect salaries?
Well, it may not come out of salaries. It may come out of equipment or repairs. We'll move it somewhere.
Just the 54.
And he may be a lot on. I'm not sure if he's
Don't think so.
Are you throwing in the 5478?
Yes, sir, that's what I was,
Just the 5,478 will come out.
yes, sir.
Yes. And we're picking up that $3,500
Right.
difference.
Unless y'all want to pay the 5478.
Well, if you come up short, we'll end up paying you.
Yeah, that's what I figured, so. I just feel bad for them. They didn't expect this. This is not something that they counted on. I had no idea this was a new law. I have looked through all of my correspondences with Tennessee Department of Pupil Transportation. I don't see anything about this being new. I find it very difficult. This bus is similar to a church bus type, and there are all schools all around us everywhere that have these type buses that transport their students to and from events.
I mean, the senior crib is a long-standing, tradition. I ain't gonna go and tell these kids 2 days before they leave, hey, I'm sorry, so, I'll make the motion to approve, the emergency funding.
I'll second.
Thank you. I'll say before we do that, I agree with Ms. Curtis. Our families in our communities that have already raised this funding, they do not need to have any type of hurt on their pocketbooks at this time. They've already done their part and everything.
And I don't think
And-
it's any of you, our fault, their fault.
So and I agree, Mr. Nichols, with what you said about the fairness of a school bus compared to this, and you can't do that to a
No.
group of high school seniors. They need to celebrate. So,
Right.
right. Any more discussion? Mr. Curtis, please call the roll.
Motion made by Mrs. Curtis, seconded by Mr. Mullins to approve Cannon County High School senior trip emergency funding transportation expenditure of $5,478. Mr. McMackins,
Aye.
Mr. Mill,
Aye.
Mr. Mullins,
Aye.
Ms. Curtis,
Aye.
Chairman Thomas.
Aye.
Madam Chairman, 5 ayes, no nays.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And y'all have a safe trip too.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah,
Have a good time.
absolutely. Item number 14 on tonight's agenda is discussion of rezoning. I believe all of us received an email from Miss Lisa today with numbers that we requested on Tuesday night. And it shows, if you can pull that document up, it's in Google Sheets. It will show you exactly how many are at Cannon Elementary and where they are supposedly, or where they are, excuse me, where they are zoned for. She's broken that out. She's also given you the out-of-county students at the bottom. Then there's tabs at the bottom that'll show you north, south, middle, and high as to how many kids are zoned. I have not gotten to count these in detail. I got to glance at this. Looking across, my first thought was, if you look at what's zoned for north and south at the elementary, but then pull up north, you're gonna have, if we break all of this, they're just gonna flip.
Yep.
Is what I see at a glance.
Yes,
Like I
ma'am.
said, I didn't get to do hard counts. If you pull that up and look at that. And then, of course, the middle school and the high school just shows out of county.
Right.
Did anyone else have any thoughts? Seeing that just flipping, I would think that we're gonna have to look at our rezoning law. I mean, we're gonna
I
have to.
agree.
We're gonna have to, in my opinion.
You're not going to help Cannon Elementary if you don't do some sort of
Right.
rezone.
Ms. Black, what would you suggest, looking at these numbers in detail? You knew I was going to ask that question, so.
Well, I think I recommended that we look at outside the city limits and look at those numbers specifically. And I'd be willing to sit down and do that with those principals to determine where they want to draw those lines. I just don't want to overcrowd south because I'm afraid we could do that if we weren't careful.
Ms. Lisa, do you think by the May workshop that you could have a report with the map designed and the hard numbers about what it could look like? A proposal
ma'am.
if you sit down with those principals and do that?
I think so. I think we can have that ready for you guys by then. At the workshop, we'll have it kind of drawn out. Do you want the map so you can kind of see it like we did it when we originally?
I would like all of it. I would like the map and the numbers to go
As
along
well,
with it.
yes.
Yes, ma'am.
And Madam Chairman, that would be May 9th, and that would still give people nearly a week that they can start the zoning process on May the 15th through the June 15th
Okay.
on any zone exemptions.
I think that would be good if we could get this in place before that window opens.
Yes, I agree. And I said earlier, I'm already getting zone exemptions. That's from for the kids that come in from kindergarten screening. So I have a stack. That's just kindergarten. That's not everybody else yet.
Any more questions or ideas from anyone? Thank you very much, Ms. Lisa.
Parliamentary inquiry, Madam Chairman, would
sir.
be to table this until the May 9th workshop.
I make a motion that we table this.
I'll second.
Does the roll need to be called on the table?
Let's go ahead and do that.
Okay,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
believe so. Yes, please call the roll.
Motion made by Chairman Thomas, seconded by Ms. Curtis, to table the discussion of rezoning to the May Cannon County Board of Education meeting. Mr. McMackins.
Aye.
Ms. Trammell.
Aye.
Mr. Mullins.
Aye.
Ms. Curtis.
Aye.
Chairman Thomas.
Aye.
Madam Chairman, 5 ayes, no nays.
Thank you. Item number 14 is discussion and possible action concerning the addition of paid sick days and breaks for the support staff. We're going to ask Mr. Jennings to look at what breaks looked like adding that in for the support staff, along with having Miss Julie and a few others there with them to make sure that things are done the right way, that things can be sustained from Miss Kathy as well, from our federal programs.
And food service.
And food, I was
And
about
food
to
service.
say and
Ms.
food
Jennifer.
service. I'm not trying to leave anybody out, y'all. I'm so sorry. But just that table discussion needs to happen. And hopefully we'll have some answers at our next budget meeting so we can move forward with this and correct this for some of our employees. So, right. Number 15 on tonight's agenda. I'm so
16.
sorry. Thank you.
16, you have a new number.
Yes, I need to go back to my agenda here. Number 16 is discussion of our budget. Is there any comments or discussion about that this evening? Any follow-ups?
Madam Chairman, everybody got an email, board members got an email in regard to Douglas with the new one that he had
Yes.
revised. So there is a revision. Don't go by the old one, go by the latest one. The revision is, it's got the latest figures there that he has for you.
And our next meeting is the 24th.
The 24th?
Correct.
Yes, sir. All right, item number 17 is a strategic plan discussion. Anything on that, we will be needing to make some movement on that, as was discussed on Tuesday night before July 1. Was a recommendation from Mr. Curtis. No further discussion on that. I'm going to move to number 18, which it would be our director's comments for the evening. Mr. Curtis.
Yeah, and Madam Chairman, pleasure to make comments tonight. I'll be brief, but I appreciate the hard work with particularly that you honored our Cannon County North staff due to the recent tornado, an F2 that touched down in the western part of our county, destroying historic structures, but also disrupting people's lives. We're very fortunate we did not have a fatality during that early Saturday morning. We had students affected. We had no fatalities of any student or injuries of any student. I believe that's somebody looking over us during that time period. So appreciate all the efforts that North has made, but also Cannon Middle and Cannon High School made because they had students affected. And appreciate everybody being very considerate. I have an appreciation from Cannon County EMA Director Roy Sullivan, who has given appreciation to the board for allowing the Red Cross to utilize the Cannon County North Elementary School as a shelter for as long as they did. So he's very appreciative, as well as the Red Cross, extremely appreciative of being allowed to use our facility and disrupt those students' schedules. And so we appreciate that. I'm very appreciative and look forward to working with Ms. Bonnie Patterson, the new director-elect, and I will use that term quite a bit. She'll look at me mean, but guess what? I'll get over it and give her the tutelage as best I can in regard to the director of schools duties. And I know it'll be a good transition period. And I will announce that my I guess it's not a party, I guess we could call it, but my retirement party will be occurring on May the 25th. Everybody's invited at Cannon County High School from 3 to 6. And as Mr. McMackins noted in a previous meeting, I will be the first director to actually retire from office since Mr. Barney Bragg did on August 31st of 1976. So my honor to do so, and my honor to have served. And I'll have a long, hour and a half speech later that we can give. So thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you.
And I'm doing better, by the way. People have asked. I'm doing better. So thank you for asking. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Ladies, he stole my thunder. You guys prepared me the other night for May the 25th, but he did it for me, didn't he? So he stole my thunder. Everyone is invited to that evening of celebration for Mr. Curtis's career. We hope that everyone can come out and join us for that. We live in a good place, a really good place with really, really good people. And that has been shown over the last few weeks. We definitely have been watched over, and we are blessed. And the volunteer efforts, they shouldn't surprise us. Our community always comes out and volunteers, and we take care of each other, and that's a beautiful thing. We have some very good leaders in our midst and in our school system, and that was seen through the process of the director search. So I thank everyone involved in that, and I congratulate Miss Bonnie tonight. And I'm looking forward to working alongside you. Thank you. With that, do I have a motion?
Madam Chairman, if I could, one more thing I
Yes,
just thought
sir.
about. Sorry about that. The SRO bill that many of you are watching, Senate Bill 1400 and House Bill 1134, has been moved forward, and the Senate Finance and Ways and Means and the House Ways and Means Committee will be bringing that up next week. And I hope to be better, and I'll be in Nashville part of that day. They've asked me if I'd come down and just be a part of that. And if it goes to the Senate floor and the House floor, I'd like to be there for that bill to be passed. I am very excited about that and that process. So good news in regard to that. I hate it took a tragedy to get some attention there, but I appreciate everyone's working with that and working with our State Senator Reeves and our House Representative, Mr. Michael Hale. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you
Make a
very much.
motion adjourn.
Thank you.
I second.
Thank